Hey, everybody. Happy New Year. It's Craig and Pete coming at you live. Recording today, January 10th. Starting out 2022, Craig.
Yeah, we started.
What'd you do for New Year's, buddy?
I was ostracized by my community because I tested positive for the Corona Light. Yeah. So I was not able to execute my lovely New Year's plans. What did you do, bud?
And we did about the same. It was
You weren't with
family
anybody
New
else?
Year's. Huh?
You were just the fam?
No, we went out we had some people over and then kind of just celebrated with the kids.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, yeah.
I blew off some fireworks in the cul-de-sac.
Yeah, we did that too, which is funny. I didn't know you could buy fireworks at Costco, but
I didn't know that either.
In Georgia. I thought they were illegal in Georgia.
Those are Kirkland fireworks.
Yeah.
This podcast brought to you by Kirkland Fireworks.
Next year.
When bulk fireworks are necessary.
So, Craig, the podcast today I want to talk about is apropos for the beginning of the year. I think it's always nice in the beginning of the year to set your compass, set your GPS, set your coordinates to what you want your year to look like. And for so many of us, you finish a year and you're grinding to get to revenues, right? And saying this was our goal, and usually it's a revenue goal. And you grind and you get to the break and you're like, okay, either you did it or you didn't. But the break, I think Christmas break and New Year's, when the world goes kind of off grid a little bit, I think it gives you time to recalibrate. And like Naval says, I think you train, you sprint, you rest, and then you reassess. And I think this is the reassess period. And for so many of us who either hit that goal and are now in the mode of setting up a new goal for their practice or their life, saying, well, you inherently go up, right? You inherently want more. So if I hit $1 last year, maybe I want to hit $1.20 this year, so to speak. But you have to ask yourself, because I think sometimes goals will set us up for failure, because the output, the $1.20 is the output of the year, right? It's the equal sign of the equation that you're about to enter into. If you don't change your inputs, then you can probably expect $1 again. And maybe I'm being a little bit too convoluted with what I'm saying, but hoping and saying that you're going to have a 20% increase this year. And I will ask you, are you doing new hiring? No. Are you doing new training? No. Are you doing new marketing? No. Are you building out a new office? No. Are you expanding your office? No. Well, let me tell you, you're probably not going to hit that 20% because you didn't change any of your outputs. You're not learning a new skill. You're not learning something to take to the market. So that 20% is just hopium and it just feels good. So until you change the level of your inputs to then reverse engineer what you want to see in your outputs, it's an active futility, in my opinion. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that the first decision is knowing what you want to achieve, and then the second decision is knowing all the layers of work that go into it. And I think we're all guilty of setting up goals I think we spend more time in the execution of the goal than in the thought of what goal we should create. There's whether it's the Gary V type of mentality, but there's this idea of constant never-ending improvement in all areas of your life. And the new year is a time to take inventory and feel the need to step on some form of gas pedal. Mm-hmm. And I think that people, it's asked so frequently of us as business owners, like, what do you want to achieve for next year? It's like, okay, well, I got to grow. So it's like we regurgitate it 20%. Well,
what's interesting though is, let me pause right here, because we actually had an office hours and part of the mastermind. We were actually talking about goals and KPIs and results and things like this, right? And to your point, right, it was like, well, I guess I have to grow. And then one of our members was like, but I'm probably on the verge of breakdown.
Well, actually, yeah, the call was really cool. I missed it, but I watched the recording, and it was like, what's it was at the end of the call, and your question was, what's the most important KPI? And everybody's there's a resounding answer for, hygiene reappointment and stuff like that. And then the guy you're talking about is like, hey, just want to let you know, I crushed all the goals and I crushed my spirit as well. That's what he said. I crushed my soul or my spirit. So I got to the proverbial destination line and I've almost lost myself in the process. So I think it's a really good place to start because we're all at the beginning of a new year. And um, if the goal is going to crush your spirit, if you're going to get a couple more dollars and you're going to wind up really freaking unhappy, we're already leading the chart, unfortunately, in all the categories that we don't want to be leading: suicide, divorce, all that crap. Like Dennis, we're not doing well holistically as far as the achievement and fulfillment cycle. We're making money and we're not happy. So I think that people jump really reflexively to a goal, and it's not their goal, and
it sounds good, right?
It sounds great.
Craig, and on that call, like you said, you weren't on it. And I said, look, stop. Whatever you're about to say in terms of numbers in this, I was like, the only KPI that matters right now is you. Meaning, like, you are not a robot. We are not dental robots who go in and more output. It must increase. I was like, if you don't take inventory of the way you're feeling right now, you're not going to be around to take advantage of all the blessings of these KPIs, right? So we got to fix that, meaning that people go into dark places when you feel like you're just on this hamster wheel that you don't, with no purpose, right? And you feel burnt out and like, what else? And the irony is, Greg, there was a dichotomy on the call of KPIs and let's crush it and let's look at this and let's analyze this and here's these dashboards, right? And then there was the human side of it, which evolved later in the call, and it was hands down my favorite, like, kind of conversational mastermind call because it involved all the things, yeah. And it was great to see that, like, yes, we can look and dig into numbers and squeeze, like you said, the hygiene reappoint number. But the ultimate day, we need to take inventory of how we are. And I think going back to what I opened up with my kind of opening monologue was the inventory of you the beginning of the year is a great time to do it. Right. Because you are in control. There aren't all these stimuli coming at you yet. You're not in July where it's like, oh shit, I'm in the throes of it. You have a chance right now to be proactive and not have to be reactive to what life's about to get you. Like, start planning for these contingencies, right? Start getting this training. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to market this differently. We're going to boost this. Be proactive now, because you control that, as opposed to waiting for these arrows to come at you. And I assure you, they're coming this year, right? Just like they came at you last year, just like they came at you the year before. I'm not painting a doom and gloom situation. But it's just so fun to make sure that it's just so funny to see, brother Craig, that a lot of times the goals that we set are A, arbitrary, and B, just hopium, because we didn't change anything.
Well, the guy that mentioned his soul crushing experience, how I always harp on vision. I called him the next day. I know we both called him, and I spoke to him for about 45 minutes or so. And I was like, what was the reason why the goal? What was the reason for the goal? And he had no reason. So he had an obscure goal that meant nothing to him. It's not like, I want to get to X dollars so that I can bonus my team and my team doesn't have to worry about, money and security, there was no other reason, just like, why not this? So he had an obscure goal that meant nothing to him, and he achieved it. So when you have a goal that means nothing to you and you achieve that goal, it will mean nothing to you. So, what we're talking about here really, and I don't want to, is inputs and outputs and getting results. And the thing that I highlighted from before was, as you're saying right now, like, your success depends on the quality of your inputs, but ultimately we have to define success as deliberate lifestyle design. What is success for you, Peter Boulden, is different. Everybody's got a different idea, and you're going to get yourself in a lot of trouble if you don't define what success looks like. So at the beginning of the year here, if you could create goals that actually mean something for you, that actually translate into something first, that's the first thing, because you're going to skip over that part.
Well, they give purpose to the goal, right?
Right. I asked Rob, I'm like, well, why didn't you do a vision? Well, I don't know. It's too hard. It's hard to think about it. So what happens is we're looking for the easy thing. And, they heard on here, they heard somewhere else, I grow 20%. I grew 20% last year. Grew it. Oh my God, that's great. I'm going to do that. And then you go through the tyranny of how. Okay, I'm going to learn this. I'm going to do Perio Protect. I'm going to go get this machine. I'm going to go take that course. or I'm going to go to the Bulletproof Summit. And I'm going to learn all these marketing hacks and, all these different things and implement them. And they'll get that result. They'll get it. But those who have never taken the first step to figure out the why will get there and be miserable. And the ultimate failure is to get everything you wanted and still be unhappy. If you don't get what you want and you're unhappy, at least you have an excuse. That's why lottery winners are so oftentimes reporting lower levels of happiness after they win the lottery, because money was the problem. They said, well, shit, I can't pay the bills and I can't go to vacation. All of a sudden you get $40 million dropped in your lap. It's awesome for a year or two. And all of a sudden you realize, shit, I'm still unhappy. And the worst thing is to be unhappy without a reason. When you're unhappy without a reason, that's the worst failure. So,
did you by chance, look at that monk manual that Michael sent out? Michael Bershon is in our mastermind, and did you by chance see that? Michael giving you a shout out here.
What was it?
It was basically for the end of the year. It's basically goals and looking at life through simplicity, and it basically it's a worksheet that you go through. It's called the monk manual, and Lacey kind of I know you're listening.
Oh,
Lacey's
yes.
Yeah,
it's a workbook.
Maybe you could post that PDF and the notes here that people could have it, but it basically is a worksheet, and it takes a couple hours to go through. And Craig, you said it was, going back to your example of asking Rob, it's hard to do things, but it was asking good questions. This monk manual that Michael sent, it asked very good questions about kind of your desired primary outcome of what you want to see. And then it asked like, well, how are you going to get there? And then kind of what's going to stand in the way? And then kind of what's it going to deliver for you? Like, so to your point. And it was really fun to go through. I went through it in the first of the year and actually wrote it out. And used it. So I think it's a good tool, right, Craig? I know you always bust on the tools and stuff.
No, I think it's a good tactic. It's a good mechanism.
The mechanism is spending time alone with yourself in your thoughts and like, what do you really want? Because I always say, I'm looking at my big thing is, the one ticket, the one life. I think what you don't want to do is get to the end and be like, God dang, all that for what? And we have the chance every year to kind of redesign what we want to do. It's going to be this many vacations, it's going to be this many life experiences. It's going to be, I'm going to eat well. I'm going to do this. We have the chance to be the architect of our lives every year, every day, but every year it's nice to kind of lay the groundwork. So I know we've got kind of all over the place.
Well, no, it's important. And the reason why I grabbed the book, by the way, I know you saw me reach for our book. There's a line in our book and it says life's ultimate bottom line is your happiness. Life's ultimate ROI is your happiness. And people will come to you and I and be like, should I do this? Should I do that? Is this a good investment? Should I buy this? And then as you and I peel back the onion, well, what do you want to do? Well, I don't know, and it's like you realize you're answering tactical questions that are really not a fair snapshot of what it is. Like, should you have children, Peter? It's like, is it a good ROI to have children? No. Should you get married when most marriages end in divorce, statistically speaking? No. All these decisions are, if we answer them at face value, it's a resounding no. But the nuances of decisions and happiness are yours to discover on your own. And I think that we have a crisis of people that have unexamined lives. I think it was Thoreau that said the unexamined life is not worth living. So actually people are living other people's lives. That's what it is. That you were told to do this, you were told to do that, and now you're just on your way doing that. And if I could do one thing for dentistry, and I know you feel the same way, is let me help you achieve the goal that you really, really want to achieve. And any other goal, I don't want to waste your time. I'll help you, but we're wasting each other's times. And we've done that. Like, I'll give a shout to Mimi, Mimi, from in LA, Westlake Smile Studio, really powerful vision, figured out what she wanted to do. She wanted to own a house in Calabasas. She wanted this. She wanted her practice to do this. Why? Because it would make her feel great. She felt really good about it and drive a team and blah, blah, blah. And she hit it all. And she feels amazing. She's living her best life ever. Same exact result from another person. He's like, my soul was crushed. I crushed my goal. I crushed my soul. That's failure. That's failure.
Well, I think it's not failure. I think it's just a time to audit that way.
Well, it's not a final failure. I'm not trying to be harsh on Rob, but it's not,
no.
It was not
I thought it was beautiful. Like acknowledging that it was like, hey, this is not sustainable. And right. So let's move from this one. I want to go to the next kind of point I have here, which is that as we move forward in the year, identify, like live the 80-20 lifestyle. Okay, Craig. And what that is like, we all have superpowers, and 80% of our outcomes and most things we do in life come from 20% of our inputs, right? That's the Pareto principle or the Pareto rule. And it's easy to understand that in your life, it's the same thing. It's the same thing, that it's not just in your business, it's probably in your life. So sometimes we spend our time very inefficiently. And if we all are given God-given superpowers, which I truly believe we are, I truly believe this. You have different gifts bestowed to you that I do, Greg, right? Than Lacey does, and all the people we just mentioned in this podcast. It's incumbent upon you and the people that depend on you to find those superpowers so that you can double down on that. You can double down on that and become really efficient with your life, and I think it makes everyone around you prosper. And I also think that it makes you a lot more fulfilled, and it doesn't get into this soul-sucking, soul-crushing mentality.
Right. Which, as a leader, when you dabble in this shit that you're not good at, that drives you batty, you become a shitty person. And the other thing that you're really good at is encumbered by that. So it's like the oxygen mask on yourself first. So
like I carry a list. I have a list, Craig, of things that like, and I've gotten, obviously with the years, it's gotten less and less, but I used to write like the shit I love, my day, right? The shit I love doing today, the shit I hate doing today. And that's literally what the piece of paper said. And it was a line down there. And I'd be like, I hated having to go to the dry cleaners, and I hated having to, have this HR conversation, right? And so my goal, but I love doing, this veneer preparation and the end, right? I love doing the marketing, and I loved all these things. So I started to identify the inventory of my life, because it's all the ingredients of your life that make up to, oh, I feel worn out, or, oh my gosh, I feel supercharged, right?
Yeah. And what, and
not
the
that there's
out,
more of one
right,
ingredient. It's just you're putting the right ingredients in the bucket.
Very good distinction. You can actually do more work that's energy creating, more hours, more work, more output, and feel good about it.
Yeah.
Or do less work and feel crushed by it. So figuring out what you like and what you don't.
But playing the woe is me card, which you see so many people do, well, I had to do this. No, technically you didn't. Either you're a control freak or you just didn't want to let go of it. But like, don't do shit in your life. If you can afford to offset or delegate to someone who can do it 80% as good as you can. I know we all think we do it 100% perfectly, but and you do not like it, find that. Meaning, I said, okay, here's the shit I don't like to do list. As soon as someone can do it 80% as good as me, I'm getting it off of this plate, and I'm going to double down on the stuff I like to do more of.
And recognizing also that list is going to evolve.
Yes, totally.
And it's going to change over time. So you can say, wouldn't my life be great if I could just do more of this and less of that? You do that for 2-3 years and you're like, you know what? I miss doing this, or I miss doing that. So just recognize that it's always going to change. And I think we as humans feel inconsistent because, like, in 2018, we said, wouldn't it be cool if all I could do is implants, placing my own implants? And I had associates doing all the other dentistry. And then you do it. You're like, oh shit, I don't like this anymore. I was getting old. I want to do this. And I think in life, we tend to make very large turns, and we paint with broader brushstrokes.
Well, I do for sure.
When it's yeah, you definitely do. And when it comes to the deliberate lifestyle design, micro movements, micro course corrections, because a new endeavor started after 5 years, you're really far from the starting point. You really veered because you change directions. It's no big deal in a month or two. But when you change directions, like a course correction in a boat, if you're 2 degrees off and you're 5 hours into the course, you are thousands of miles off your trajectory.
Yeah. The analogy is a flight from New York to LA, right? If it doesn't set its GPS and nail it, if it's off by 1 degree, it lands in Tijuana.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So we don't have, there's 2 things that work. There's course correction and time. So you say something, you make a definitive statement. I only want to do Invisalign. I only want to do, implant therapy. That's all I want to do. And then like after 5 years of that, you're far from where you started. So I think it's just important, like, this year is going to be for this.
It's the continual audit, though, is my point, Craig, because nothing has to be permanent. So you can't bellyache about, well, I'm doing all this shit I don't want to do. Okay, well, that's a you problem, not a me problem or them problem. That's a you problem. You can engineer your way out of it. And you just have it, but it's going to be intentional, and there may be some hard work, and you may have to do some excessive training to get it off your plate. But I assure you, on the other side of that is more time in your freedom zone, more time in your prosperous zone, more time in your superpower zone where you feel
Right.
fulfilled and
Yep.
you're better in the ecosystem for
Yeah.
everyone around you.
And that's important. That's what I was saying before. You have to take inventory of that. If you're doing something that turns you into a raging lunatic and you're not good for your team, you are destroying everybody around you. So you have to create some level of awareness to protect yourself and put yourself in the best situation. It's the oxygen mask idea.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a depressurized plane, your baby is crying. The thing to do is put the oxygen mask on them, but you only have 15 seconds of oxygen left. You're going to be fumbling. It's like bailing out a drowning swimmer. If the swimmer can drown both of you. So it's a really important analogy to recognize this is for yourself, and it's for yourself in service to other people. There's a famous quote. It says, life serves those which serve more life. Like life supports life. So you have to figure out your identity of how to support other people as well. It's not just what makes me happy, because you know what? Drinking beer makes me happy, actually, Pete, but not every fucking day. Like, you know what I mean? Like, how many days in a row being in a boat can make me happy? But, I've been in a boat for almost 2 weeks. And it's like, okay, I want to get back to life. Mm-hmm. So I think there's those micro adjustments and recognizing what it is, but your fulfillment is deeply tied to helping other people.
It's like the titration of your life, right? Like one more drop. Let's see how that feels. All right, that was not good. Let's put that drop back in.
Back it up.
But you're constantly analyzing. I think that is.
But we're not allowed to
point.
do that though, Pete. That conversation is like, what do you mean you don't know what you want? You're 40 years old. You should. What do you mean you don't know if you want to open a second? I just don't know. Don't really know. And the less certain you are about knowing yourself, I think the more grace you can give yourself. And you don't speak in such definitive terms. I'm happy this year was a good year. Next year, I'm going to try out this too and see what happens. Mm-hmm. You know what? There's no problem. Been there, done that. And I love.
I like what you just said. Let's go back to that. Like,
well, it's just being the architect of your life. Like I've in some years, I was really focused on like my aviation aspect. I really wanted to nail being an instrument rated pilot. And, I really wanted to keep going with that. That was all about it. This year, I'm really focused on, outside of, my work, I'm really focused on the ranch, actually, Pete. I'm really getting into like the understanding of like cattle production and trying to see if I can make a go at the meat business. It's fascinating to me because in my own domain, I'm a master in many different ways, maybe not family and all that, but in many domains, I'm a master, and I go out there and I'm a moron. My ranching partner, Kevin, is always like, you didn't see that? I was like, no, I didn't even notice that. Because they're so slow. He sees everything. He sees that tree that died. He sees the grass.
But he has, just like in dentistry, you've put in the 10,000 hours, right? Going back to my whole Bible, you are the expert in this, right? Just like he's put in the 10,000 more, right? So I love how you're dropping yourself into an entirely different context and environment, and it's stimulating.
And being a novice,
you actually are embracing feeling like an idiot.
I love it. I am such an idiot. I'm like, can you not be mad at me if I ask you a question? Because he's like mad. He's like, how the hell do you not see that?
What are you, dumb boy?
Yeah. What are you, dumb? I'm like, no, I'm actually very accomplished. I just didn't notice that. It's fascinating. Mm-hmm. And it's fascinating for me to be a novice, a real novice. I don't see any of it. I'm like, how do you even see what I don't see? It's like when you're a beginner baby dentist and like, they do a crown and you do a crown. You didn't see that periapical pathology. You didn't even notice it. You didn't notice the collapse bite. What do you mean? How'd you know they were collapsed? Well, look, this person's 28 years old. Their teeth are short.
Right.
You see all that?
The lower third of their face.
Right. Yeah. You don't notice VDO. You're just seeing the broken number 30 for a crown.
Right. And you're thinking, holy shit, I hope I don't miss a step kind of thing.
Right. Versus... So it's just this, there's a parallel in life and in dentistry. Then and you and I are at points in our career where we've like been there, done a lot of different things. So we're constantly reinventing things to challenge us. And I think that's an exercise in fulfillment as well, as long as we're not attached to the success of it. So like you and I meet failure oftentimes, recently on one specific thing with our thing with Sammy, I'm like, okay, what's next? And just so happens that you and I have very, we've done that culture index. So you and I have very high inventiveness ratios, like our numbers. You and I want to go to a different Starbucks every day of the week because we think it's cool. You and I want to try on different things. You and I want to dabble. And that is adaptive for our happiness. We're like, well, okay, that didn't work. Let's try this. Let's try this. Let's try that. So I think for those that don't have that, this is important to hear that you can actually, you don't have just one career. You don't have just one experience. If you're burnt out with dentistry, change your dentistry.
Yeah.
Dentistry, every dental practice I've ever walked in might as well be an entirely different industry. We tend to look at it with a very myopic glass that it's everything is one way, but you can pivot your entire practice this year if you want, if you wish to. You could drop insurance. You could go.
Isn't that freedom? Like, God dang,
It's
there's no one
amazing
telling you
freedom.
what you can and can't do. And
Yeah.
that's
You want to
scary
hear
at times, Craig.
you want to hear the opposite? I worked out on Wednesday. I was not feeling well. My trainer didn't think I was showing up on Wednesday. I decided to show up. He put a pediatric urologist in with me. This guy named Chuck. So Chuck and I are working out. Chuck's 63. And at the end, I know him from around town. I'm like, he's like, did you hear I'm not practicing at the hospital anymore? I was like, no. I mean, aren't you like the best? Like, he worked on like some really famous golfers and stuff like that. He's a very well-known guy. And he's like, yeah, they terminated my contract. I'm like, well, what happened? He's like, well, the hospital administrator had me hire a surgeon because they said we were really busy, and they had me train him. And the guy's working for less money, and they literally fired me. I was like, so work over here. He's like, oh, no, I'm operating in Virginia now, Craig. I was like, what do you mean you live in Delray? He's like, yeah, I go up and I have to operate in Virginia. The subject of it is he is completely beholden to the hospital system. And the hospital system, the non-compete, is not just for that hospital. It's for every hospital they own, and they own every hospital. So imagine the frustration that this person has. And they don't have, we in dentistry, yes, it's healthcare, but it's kind of like healthcare plus retail. The freedom is immense. It's immense to do whatever you want to do. Maybe it's actually selling your practice because you realize you're a darn good dentist and you just hate dealing with all the HR. Maybe if you could just sell your practice and go work with somebody else where you could just show up and do the dentistry, you could realize that's your 80-20.
Right.
Why do you have to be good at everything? I got 0 hours of HR, business, marketing. Every training that you and I have received was the School of Hard Knocks. And all the training that I had about dentistry was actually dollar for dollar, equal reward, input and output. I learned how to do, clear aligner therapy. I employed that. I learned how to do a crown prep. I employed that immediately. Business, you get the experience and then you have to put it into the equation, and it may or may not work. And it's really hard. And I think there's a narrative, and I always say it, that supports this idea that you're supposed to be a business person. And if you're not good at business, you're not going to be great as a dentist. I'm here to say it again, and I've said it many times. If you love dentistry and don't like all the other stuff, fix that this year. Yeah. Fix it this year. And I think that's awesome. I think that's a great exercise.
We're going to wrap in here.
As far as the 80-20 thing, Peter.
Yeah.
You know how many times Peter and I have gone through a P&L and I've had to say to somebody, do you love owning your practice? And if you don't love it, it's actually costing your money, because if you went to work for Peter or for, one of the good DSOs that are out there, and they paid you 32% of your production and 32% of your labs, you'd actually make 50 grand more or 70 grand more. That's a very humbling piece of data to consider. And you may say, no, I'd rather make less money. I like that. That's cool too, but don't fool yourself. Don't fool yourself. Don't ever fool yourself. And I think that's coming full circle, Peter, because we started off with this idea of a goal that was really never your goal, and you fooled yourself.
Yeah, totally. I'm kind of processing this as you're thinking. So I like what you were saying when you went down and you said, look, if you liked your year, and I'm going to kind of take that with a tangent. If you liked your year, pat yourself on the back. If you like 2021, pat yourself on the back, but also spend some time with like the success of that. The success left you clues. What were those clues that gave you that life? Gave you that, I feel like I had a good year. What was it? Right? Was it the time you got to spend with your family? Was it the money you made? Was it the vacation? Whatever it was, make sure that you put those ingredients down on the paper, right? Yeah. And be intentional about making sure you shop for those ingredients. Again, I don't know why I'm going with this ingredient metaphor, right? If you didn't like the cake that you baked last year, then write down that as well. Here's the shit that happened. Here's the things I don't want to happen again. Here's the stuff I was doing, not doing it again. Make a damn new cake. Make a new cake. But
both are very powerful.
Figuring it out.
Yeah, I love what you said. Knowing what you like is a good teacher. Knowing what you didn't like is just as equally a great teacher. You know, you can
But
learn
some
a
of us
lot.
just don't, we spend so much time on shit, Greg, and we don't spend time sitting in our room, figuring out what we want to do with our own lives sometimes.
Yeah.
We don't go over this. I'm not saying you have to get this goals and mottos and here's my outline pieces. It's just in the next 365 days, what do I want to see happen? And shit's
Right.
going to change and deviate, but at least you packed the right, at least you packed correctly for the trip.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You didn't just go into you didn't just go into the forest and be like, let's see what happens. Like, here comes a bear. Oh, I didn't pack the gun I should have packed, right?
Yeah.
Like,
no one packs in life, Peter. No, we all don't pack.
Right. But if you don't plan for these contingent things, right, you're beholden to become reactive. It's all I'm trying to say. Plan for the contingency.
You just keep doing the same thing over and over and over. And then maybe this year will be the year that I get happy.
Maybe this will be the year. That's hopium. Yeah. Hopium.
And there's a very famous quote that shifted a lot of the great minds that I like to listen to. And it's the first principle the first principle is that you must not fool yourself, and you are the easiest person to fool. That's the problem.
Like that. Like that.
Yeah, that's very
so. What are you most excited about this year? Other than, I know you talk. Is it the ranch that you're most excited about? Just kind of continuing to curate that.
I'm excited about everything, man. I mean, if you told me that I had to part ways with my practice, I would be sad. There's challenges that lie ahead for me this particular year. I had a big shift in an unexpected event happen in the practice where a very seasoned doctor decided to leave, and that's left me in a short term. I have to stand guard at my brain right now because it's easy. If I wanted to indulge in things that would be bad, I could easily go that way. But I
what do you mean?
Just saying, like
social media.
No. Like about surrounding the business, the things that just changed in my practice. So I had a plan, people changed, and there's a need for additional help in my practice, and we're busy and not, I need to get that straightened out. But so it's in my mind, it's a stabilizing year, but I have to push myself to no, it's not just stabilizing, it's growth as well. So I'm pushing myself there. But yeah, like the things that are, am I excited about what's happening in practice? Yes. I'm also excited about all the other things that are happening as well in my life. So I want it all. I mean, I hate to sound spoiled, but I want it all. I want everything. I want increased health, and I'm working hard to do that.
You are working hard. My wife even knows. She said, Craig's been working out a lot.
Yeah. Because my body hurt, bud. It hurt a lot. I during COVID, I decided to do a social experiment, and the results of the experiment are inactivity causes pain, body pain. So I don't want to play that experiment again. And
more than that,
but increase relationships, I want to increase, but that's not like a yearly thing. That's like an everyday thing. And I think the year is too long. I think we tend to make too grandiose goals.
Yes, it should be quarterly. I agree.
I even say it's got to be, like I was talking to my son yesterday. I said, it's got to be a day. Cause he's being a boy, he's rebelling, and he's losing his cool. So he's in the series where he loses his cool, he apologizes, loses cool, apologizes. I'm like, bro, buddy, I didn't say bro, but I'm like, you got to focus on a good hour. Just have a good hour. Don't, be cool.
Piece it together.
Yeah. And then because the quarter's too long too, because we're too emotional.
Well, I meant us as more intellectually, emotionally intelligent,
but we'd be surprised how unemotional you and I can get pretty hot.
Craig, I can put together more than a successful hour. I promise you.
Well, I'm just saying, like, I'm chunking it all. I'm saying, like, hey, a good life is equal to a good hour, which is a good morning and a good afternoon. And I've just made it very, very small chunks. So if I have a good hour, this hour that we've been together has been good. That's good. That I'm winning.
Mm-hmm.
So I look at it like now I look at it in a very short timeline. When you're thinking about the past or thinking about the future, you're actually not living. You're just like either worrying or planning. And what is the Elton John, not the Elton John, but John Lennon quote, life is what happens to you while you're busy making other plans. Mm-hmm. And, that guy was 40 years old and got gunned down out of his apartment going for a walk. So he, we're always planning. We're always planning, and life is happening whilst you're planning. So, do I want a good year this year? Yeah. Do I want to be economically better than last year? Yeah. But if I'm not, it's okay too. My lifestyle won't change if this practice makes less money for this year. But would I like it to grow? Of course. Does it need to grow? No, it doesn't need to grow. And in years past and in prior versions of myself, when I didn't hit the benchmark, like our buddy Rob, I suffered. And I'm not willing to suffer over that right now. What are you excited for, bro? Talk to me.
Yeah, so I just had a birthday. I usually get very philosophical with myself around birthdays. I had a birthday 2 days ago, Craig.
By the way, you look great for 57.
Thank you, pal. Thank you. Well, that is the next podcast I'm going to do, is all my biohacking stuff. Right?
Yes.
And, all the crazy
just
shit
joking.
I've done in my life.
He's 45 and you look like you're
46.
Oh, sorry. I got to remember that.
I'm most excited I've been intentional about creating cool experiences this year. And I'm a big planner, because because I got a lot of people that that are either it's a family or guys trip or stuff like that. But the one I'm kind of most excited about has been on my bucket list for a while. I'm actually taking dirt bike from San Diego down to Cabo, all the way down the Baja Peninsula.
Who are you going with?
There's 9 other guys going.
Is there,
8 other guys
is there room
going.
for a 10th?
I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, help me out. Let me know about that.
Yeah, so it happens pretty soon. It's been on my list of things to do for 10 years. And of course, like you, it's foot on the gas. I love the growth of practices. I love the creation of things. I like to create the vision of things. So it's foot on the gas. I have a new partner on board now with Atlanta Dental Spa, and I just see abundance all around. Even though sometimes if you turn on the news and you take in all the things that are happening in the world, you can shrink very quickly. So I very limited with the stuff I take in news. So maybe I'm being a little naive with my plans, but I don't consume a lot of news. I don't consume a lot of doom and gloom. I don't consume a lot of social media, because I don't want them interfering with my narrative, with my directive this year. Yeah.
It will.
So that's just one little small adventure tidbit, but the business stuff, I've got so much. There's so many opportunities, Craig, coming. It's almost like my job is to now, even though I want to say yes to almost everything that comes at me right now, my job is to decide, is this going to make me or the people around me, am I going to enjoy it, or is it going to benefit them in some capacity? And that's the thing. And if it's like Tommy Breedlove, you didn't listen to that. If it's not a fuck yes, it has to be a fuck. It has to be a no. And
you're bringing up something important.
Myself to that.
My thing too, Peter, is I'm actually just, if I want more, it's for the team, because our successes, my life is not going to be affected about the, massive differences in the practice, but I do have guilt or desire to lead the team to greater because I want them to win. So, if it wasn't for that, I would be a lot less motivated. I'm motivated to support the team. That's really what it is. The doctors, I want to see all them crush it. I want to see the team crush it. So that's a big motivator for me.
Yeah.
I think there's something that starts happening for people. Like when you start focusing on other people and what they want, it actually winds up being very fulfilling for you. It's a lesson that I've heard a lot, but never really saw it in application until, the last 5 years of my life, where I'm like, I want to just see other people crush it.
It's a beautiful thing. It really is.
Can you squeak me into all kidding aside, try to squeak me in.
I'll try, buddy. I'll try.
Or let's just do another one.
No, these are great guys. I mean, it's like the great guys, but yeah, we
could do a Harley trip up the PCH.
No, this is no, you heard the word dirt bike, right?
Yeah, no, I know. I was pivoting to another trip.
Sure, this wasn't like a laid back in our chaps riding down PCH.
No, I was on a dirt bike Saturday. We got 4 dirt bikes at my ranch. So yeah, I'm with it.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking, if on the off chance you can't squeak me in with the Atlanta boys, then we could.
It's not Atlanta boys. A lot of Telluride boys. A lot of some Atlanta boys. You have to Telluride a lot now.
Hey, speaking of Telluride, we've got our mastermind. So you and I are going to be snowboarding in 2 weeks in Salt Lake City. I just booked my flight and Summit. I'm excited about that, man. I'm really excited about Summit.
Yeah, the Summit, it's crazy. It's we really haven't pushed. And obviously, it's not even the year. I think it's about a halfway gone. Tickets are, but it's just really cool. And and Craig, to our point, we're drinking our own Kool-Aid here. Is that we're doubling down the successes of the Summit, meaning the team aspect is really working, the hygiene aspect is really working.
Yeah.
Bringing your whole
team
is an amazing concept, because that's a superpower in itself, right? I'm talking about superpowers earlier. It's a superpower to bring your team. Yes, I know it costs a lot of money to do that. I get it. I've been there, done that, right? I've done it several times. It's an investment. But
Nashville's also cool too, because taking your team to Nashville's a lot of fun and a lot of
it's a double thing.
Yeah.
But it's an investment, but you're also getting delegate some of these changes to your group, sourcing some of these changes, because now you have alignment where you're not the only one who's having to row this boat, right? Everyone gets to win by these new changes. And we talked about it all in this podcast, right? But I think it's a great place to come learn together, come challenge what you're doing in the practice, what's working, what's not. Like you said, Craig, you're having some fun, but you're also intermixing with you're masterminding with other practices that are there. And you're also auditing what you did last year or the 6 months prior or the 3 months prior. And you're agreeing in consensus as a group. Here's the shit we're no longer going to do. Here's what we're going to change. Here's our new North Star. Like that's when magic happens, in my opinion.
Yep. No, I agree 100%. I think, and that I was speaking to Dennis the other day, and he went to a summit out in Atlanta that you were actually at, let it be nameless. And he brought his team to it. I said, well, why did you do it? He's like, well, I just want to reward them. And I kind of want to do half learning and half fun. And I'm like, well, why not do all learning and all fun? Why not do both? He's like, yeah, I guess so. I just didn't know of anything out there. I'm like, well, what about ours? He's like, so he's signed up. He brought his entire team. He just wanted to talk to me because it was like a, $20,000 investment for everything. But the Atlanta thing, I was like, how much fun, how much learning? He's like, 0 learning. I'm like, so what was it? He's like, well, it's just
Atlanta probably right now, 0 fun. Just going to say it.
Well, no. I don't mean that. I meant like the actual content was a bunch of, influential dentists in their own right talking clinical, which I could understand if you were, but to bring your admin team and they're going to have 0 feet, and it could be all fun and all learning. And that's what I know ours would be. So if you've come before as a guest and you think you've heard this stuff before, if you've come twice as a guest, you think you've heard it, or you just got, there's a law of diminishing returns in your mind, bring your team, stay home, or go and hang out. We still offer the 10 times guarantee, even just if your team is enrolled. And that's what I'm most excited for. I really believe that if you and I didn't show up, that everybody would get the same, more value, or just as much value, because I'm that bullish on the tracks that people are listening to. Like, Erica with her whole idea about how to take an office manager and create a business strategist. You know how many office managers she's talking to right now? Like, I see the numbers, I just don't know what they mean. I'd love to help the doctor. You know how many doctors want to be helped by their office manager? They don't want an assistant. They want a business advisor. So if you can bring your office manager to the summit and they come back with like, hey, here's our plan. We're going to get our supplies to 4%. We're going to get our associate salaries to this.
Here's the KPIs we're going to manage.
Here's the KPIs.
When they fall down, I'm going to do this. You're going to do this.
Imagine that level of conversation.
Holy
we just elevated
shit.
the whole, and then imagine that night after that, where the doctors are with us, the hygienists are with Brittany and Sharice, the office managers and team are with Erica. Imagine what the conversation, we've seen it. We've seen when we were at Austin, the legal pads out, people having beers and sitting and laughing together, like these huddles at offices that are just like lit up, so.
By the way, not to give them, I want to give them a shout out. The offices they've been working on, their hygiene programs in those offices are clobbering it, dude. Like, I know. 2x from the year before, and getting people healthier in the meantime. Like, their hygiene departments are doubling by working.
Oh, I know.
Gals.
And same thing with team. It's amazing the level of growth. We're seeing it. We're seeing literally. So it's the best investment, I really believe. And I just want a lot of people to. I help you all decide to bring your teams. Please do.
No, buddy.
Okay, good one, bud. I don't know what we call this. A rant.
No, it's not a rant. It's, how did it start? We should.
It started with the practice that you designed for the intention and the practice.
I think your inputs don't, your outputs don't always. What am I trying to say? We'll figure out the title. Don't you worry, people. Until next time, we'll catch y'all later. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, people.